ISI chief Ahmad Shuja Pasha was said to be unusually more emotional than Kayani. In February 2009, Zardari's spokesperson, Faranaz Ishpahani, said the president was very unhappy with the way Prime Minister Gilani had gone off the reservation in relation to Gilani's talks with the Shahbaz Sharif, that the government would not try to remove the Sharifs from power in Punjab. In 2008, Zardari also commented on Fahim, saying he had spent most of the election campaign in Dubai with his latest 22-year-old wife and was simply too lazy to be prime minister. In 2008, Pakistani Prime Minister Yusuf Raza Gilani personally consented American drone strikes in Pakistan's tribal areas along the Afghan border to combat the Taliban, when Interior Minister Raymond Malik commented that the U.S. to hold back alleged Predator attacks until the Bajar operation. Gilani dismissed the remarks and was heard saying, "I don't care if they do it as long as they get the right people. We'll protest in the National Assembly and then ignore it." There are revelations that the small teams of U.S. elite special forces may have been dispatched in the tribal belt to help coordinate the Pakistani military's operations. One record indicates that up to 16 U.S. soldiers have been deployed to help Pakistani troops in 2009. Their role is primarily training-oriented and to provide intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance support, ISR in military jargon, general operational advice, and to set up a live satellite feed from presumably CIA-operated American drones flying overhead. Russia. Alleged links between the Russian government and organized crime. Russia was labeled as a mafia state. Russian President Dmitry Medvedev often speaks under the influence of former Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin and plays Robin to Putin's Batman. Saudi Arabia. Saudi donors remain chief financiers of militant groups like Al-Qaeda. Saudi King Abdullah has repeatedly urged the U.S. to attack Iran's nuclear facilities. In one diplomatic cable, King Abdullah said it was necessary to cut the head off the snake, in reference to Iran's nuclear program. King Abdullah proposed that Guantanamo detainees could be monitored through the use of electronic chips. Serbia and Kosovo. In 2009, French diplomat Jean-David Levitt said that ULEX has diplomatic issues with the Kosovo government and public, and that Serbian Foreign Minister Vuk Jeremic makes promises that he never keeps. He also criticized Jeremic for inaction, encouraging Serb return or participation in the Kosovo government. Guardian suggested that cables regarding Serbia awaiting publication could refer to reasons why Ratko Mladic has not been yet arrested. Slovenia. According to the cables, the State Department ordered to spy on people connected with Slovenia. That includes gaining their credit cards and phone books. It was also ordered to research the diplomacy of Slovenia, including various agreements and projects connected to Russia. U.S. also wanted to gain information on money laundering, organized criminals, etc. U.S. was also searching for information about locations of various chemical factories, secret underground military bases, evacuation plans of hospitals and buildings of the government, and how much really is Slovenia interested in cooperating in the war in Afghanistan. Spain. U.S. officials tried to pressure Spain into dropping court investigations into the CIA's extraordinary rendition, torture at Guantanamo Bay, and the 2003 killing of Jose Cuso, a Spanish journalist, in Iraq by American troops. Sri Lanka. Secretary of State of the United Kingdom David Miliband directed much of his attention on the final stages of the Sri Lankan Civil War to win votes of Tamils in the UK, stated Tim Waite, a Foreign Office team leader on Sri Lanka, recorded in one U.S. embassy cable. He, Tim Waite, said that with UK elections on the horizon and many Tamils living in Labour constituencies with slim majorities, the government is paying particular attention to Sri Lanka, with Miliband recently remarking to Waite that he was spending 60% of the time at the moment in Sri Lanka, the cable revealed. Verifying the accountability for alleged crimes in the final stages of the Sri Lankan Civil War has been very difficult. There are no examples we know of a regime undertaking wholesale investigations of its own troops or senior officials for war crimes while that regime or government remained in power. Most Tamils in Sri Lanka appear to think it is both unrealistic and counterproductive to push the issue too aggressively. Syria. Increased Syrian arms shipments to Hezbollah despite their claims that new shipments have ceased. A Syrian foreign minister was alleged to have fallen for a tabloid-like story regarding the death of Princess Diana. An American ambassador stated that this displayed the Syrian government's stark ignorance of the outside world. Turkey. Turkey deliberately did not invite India for a meeting on Afghanistan to appease Pakistan, reflecting Islamabad's insistence at every international forum that India be kept out of any meeting on Afghanistan. Former Danish Prime Minister Anders Fogh Rasmussen, during a meeting with Turkish Foreign Ministry Undersecretary Feridun Sinirlioglu, promised to shut down the controversial Denmark-based Kurdish TV station Raj TV in order to prevent Turkish obstruction to his appointment as Secretary General of NATO. Turkey complained to British diplomats that Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, wanted to ruin Turkey's chances to join the European Union by filming a documentary revealing the plight of disabled children in Turkey. The UK Foreign Secretary responded by saying that as a private citizen, her activities could not be controlled. Turkish military officials have pressured the US for Predator B drones to use against the Kurdistan Workers' Party in Iraq. Due to American concerns over the potential rise of an Islamic fundamentalism in Turkey, the State Department has warned the purchasing process promises to be long and complex. Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev is no fan of Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the ruling Justice and Development Party, despite both countries maintaining fraternal relations publicly. Aliyev criticized Turkish foreign policy by calling it naive. He also revealed that he had sold gas to Russia in order to impede Turkey's ability to create a gas distribution hub. United Arab Emirates. Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed of the United Arab Emirates, referred to as MBS in the cables, urged that the U.S. not to appease Iran and said Ahmadinejad is Hitler. Mohammed bin Zayed supported the U.S. decision to sell F-16 aircraft to Pakistan to strengthen the Musharraf government, saying the sale would not alter the balance of strength between India and Pakistan. Diplomats in the UAE revealed that Mohammed bin Zayed Abdullah II of Jordan and the UK's Prince Andrew, Duke of York, are close friends that frequently hunt in Morocco and Tanzania. UAE military officials have pressured the US for Predator B drones to be used in countering Iran. As Iran is known to be developing its own drones, a UAE general said, that's why we need it first. Give me a Predator B. Mohammed bin Zayed believes that an Israeli strike will not be successful in stopping Iran's nuclear program, and therefore a new plan is required. He also believes that Israel will strike Iran, causing Iran to launch missile attacks, including hits on the UAE, and to unleash attacks worldwide. In his view, the map of the Middle East will change. Mohammed bin Zayed apparently runs the United Arab Emirates. While he's officially the only crown prince of the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, and his only federal title is Deputy Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, he is said to be the key decision-maker on national security issues. He was observed to be unlike his elder half-brother, President Khalifa, who is reported to be a distant and uncharismatic personage. MBZ has authority in all matters except for final decisions on oil policy and major state expenditures. MBZ, not NBC. MBZ described a nuclear-armed Iran as absolutely untenable. He believes that all hell will break loose if Iran attains the bomb, with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Turkey developing their own nuclear weapons capability, and Iran instigating Sunni-Shiite conflict. MBZ said Iran is surrounding Israel driven by ideological conviction and will threaten Israel's existence should it go nuclear. At the same time, he described Iran's ambitions as reflecting a desire to restore Persia's great power status rather than driven by religious convictions. MBZ stated that the key to containing Iran revolves around progress on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He argued that it would be essential to bring Arab public opinion in line with the leadership in any conflict with Iran, and that roughly 80% of the public is amenable to persuasion. To win them over, the U.S. would have to quickly bring about a two-state solution over the objections of the Netanyahu government. He suggested working with moderate Palestinians that support the roadmap, and forget about the others as there is no time to waste. United Kingdom. Foreign Office officials concealed from Parliament a loophole in the ban on use and storage of the cluster bombs, allowing the U.S. to store the munitions in UK territory. The Ministry of Defense's Director General for Security Policy told U.S. Undersecretary of State Ellen Tauscher The UK government had to put measures in place to protect their interests during the UK inquiry into the causes of the Iraq War. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, was noted as saying, "The Americans don't understand geography. Never have. In the UK, we have the best geography teachers in the world." Venezuela. A cable sent from the U.S. Embassy in Brasilia on November 13, 2009, reported that Brazilian Defense Minister Nelson Jobim all but acknowledged the presence of the FARC in Venezuela. The FARC is the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. Spanish newspaper El País, which means the country, related some information about the remaining Venezuelan cables not released yet at the WikiLeaks webpage. These cables supposedly deal with issues related to the Cuban intelligence in Venezuela working together with the Venezuelan government. A cable sent by the U.S. Embassy in Caracas on December 14, 2009 explains what the embassy considers to be the situation of Venezuelan public health system and the government actions related to the public health sector. This in the context of raised protests in private and public hospitals, with motivation in the alleged failure of Barrio Adentro, a social welfare program with support of Cuban dictators that seeks to provide comprehensive publicly funded health care, dental care, and sports training to poor and marginalized communities in Venezuela. Yemen. Yemen's Deputy Prime Minister Abdul Karim El-Arhabi said that if U.S. attacks Al-Qaeda bases in Yemen, he will tell the people of Yemen that it was the Yemeni military that has carried out the attacks rather than the U.S. He also joked about lying to Parliament on U.S. involvement of bombings. Other issues. A rogue shipment of enriched uranium was nearly the cause of an environmental disaster in 2009. The U.S. used bargaining to move prisoners from the Guantanamo Bay detention camp to other countries. In one case, U.S. officials allegedly offered to Slovenia a meeting with U.S. President Barack Obama if the country accepts one of the Guantanamo Bay detainees. Offers to other countries include economic incentives or a visit from Obama. Diplomatic analysis of individual leaders. Harsh criticism by the U.S. Embassy staff of their host governments. Afghanistan. Hamid Karzai, president of Afghanistan, was called paranoid by diplomats. Diplomats stated that he's considered an extremely weak man who did not listen to facts, who was instead easily swayed by anyone who came to report even the most bizarre stories or plots against him. Albania. Sali Berisha, Prime Minister of Albania, was called to pro-American as needed by the diplomats. After his offer to take more Gitmo prisoners, American diplomats portrayed his offer as gracious but probably extravagant. As always, the Albanians are willing to go the extra mile to assist with our key foreign policy priorities, a cable said. Cristina Kirchner and Nestor Kirchner, current and former presidents of Argentina, respectively, are described as paranoid regarding power and showing ineptitude for foreign policy. Also, it questions the mental state and health of the current president of Argentina. Armenia. I'm just going to skip the ones that were already said. Azerbaijan. Ilham Aliyev, president of Azerbaijan, was a cross between fictional mafia bosses Michael Corleone and Sonny Corleone from the mob film The Godfather, for being a pragmatist when it comes to foreign policy, but increasingly authoritarian on domestic policy. Mehriban Aliyeva, Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev's wife, according to U.S. Embassy dispatches, was said to have had so much plastic surgery that it is impossible to confuse her for one of her daughters from a distance, but that she can still barely move her face. It is possible to confuse her, Nicolas Sarkozy, French president, was described as U.S. officials as thin-skinned, authoritarian, and an emperor with no clothes. Iraq. Nouri al-Maliki, Iraqi prime minister, was labeled a liar by King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia, saying he would never support him. Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu is elegant and charming, according to a cable apparently penned by an official at the U.S. Embassy in Egypt, but never keeps his promises. Italy. Silvio Berlusconi was defined as the U.S. Embassy in Rome as feckless, vain, and ineffective as a modern European leader. U.S. diplomatic officials also said that because of his constant partying, he is never well rested.